Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 238th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast, The Professional Structure of Dietetics. Now, I'm recording this episode in February of 2025, and literally today, CDR just dropped news that the annual dues that we pay as dietitians is increasing. It's going to be increasing over a couple of years, and there's been an uptick in conversations online. And just seeing this made me think about the fact that I often see people talking about the Academy online, and there's a lot of confusion about who the Academy is, the Academy versus CDR versus who else is in the mix. So I thought I would record a podcast episode all about the professional structure of our field, the field of dietetics. So that includes dietitians and NDTRs. And it's just something I'm really passionate about, and I think is really helpful. Hopefully will be really helpful for you all to know. So I think of our structure kind of like the big government, right? The government of the United States of America. We have the president, we have Congress. At the state level, we have governance, right? There's all of these different legs of government, and they all do very different things. They're kind of overlapping, but very, very different. This is how the profession of dietetics is set up. Obviously not as complicated. I will break it down for you guys, but there's lots of different moving parts, and I want all of you to leave this podcast episode with clarity in the structure of our field, okay? So a couple episodes, actually in episode 236, I had Rory Pace on, and we talked all about volunteering within the Academy. And at one point during our conversation, I was like, maybe I should explain some of these terms. And also that made me think of why I wanted to record this episode. So that way you guys will have complete clarity and all the things that make up our, again, professional structure. Now, I want to say I am not the expert. Clearly, I am not being paid by the Academy or any of its legs, but I'm a volunteer. I volunteer a lot. I have worn lots of different hats, and this is how I know so much about the Academy and the structure, because I've been volunteering since I got out of school, and I'm very passionate about our field. I think you guys know that about me, and I find that, yes, entrepreneurship can help me to make a difference, but so can volunteering within the professional organization of dietetics. So I am not the expert. If you want the expert stuff, I'm just going to encourage you to go to the 4 main websites. I'll be discussing really 4 main bodies, and you can go to their websites. And also something really helpful to look at is Googling the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics annual report. Right now, you can find online for free the 2023 annual report, and it tells you lots of information kind of about the structure of the profession, but then also where money goes. A lot of people ask that. They're like, where does all this money we're paying go? Well, they share with you guys. You can see a lot of it goes to staff. A lot of it goes to the contributions that these organizations are making to our field. So it is available online if you want to learn more. But let's dive in. And I want to first talk to you about the big 4 that make up the structure of dietetics, our field. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, the Commission on Dietetic Registration, the Accreditation Council for Education in Nutrition and Dietetics, and the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Foundation. Now, there's lots of other little groups in there, and I'll be talking about them during this podcast, but I want you to remember those big 4. Now, the short of it, I'm just going to give you a brief description of each of those 4, then I will go into the long of it and kind of explain in more detail what each of these groups do. So, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, we call this the Academy. Some people call it A&D, and I call it the Academy, and I feel like most people online, whenever they talk about these 4 groups, they're always talking about the Academy. So the Academy is actually optional. You can be a dietitian and not be a member of the Academy. It is an optional membership for dietetics professionals and students. Okay? Academy, optional. Now we have the Commission on Dietetic Registration, CDR, and this is actually required. We have to pay them every year. There's a 5-year payment plan if you want, where you could pay for like 5 years. But we have to pay annual dues to maintain our credentials. If you are listening and you are an RD or a DTR, you pay the Commission on Dietetic Registration, CDR, every year, and you will for as long as you have your credential. Okay? So the Academy, optional membership, CDR, required for the credential. Then we have the Accreditation Council for Education and Nutrition and Dietetics, which is a mouthful. We call that ASCEND. ASCEND is the accreditor. Am I saying that word right? They accredit all of the nutrition and dietetics programs across our country. So if you are an RD or a DTR, you had to go to an accredited school in order to sit for the exam. So Ascend was involved in the school that you went to for you to get your education, right? So we don't actively pay money to Ascend. That was something that really happened when we were students. But that's still a really big part of our field, right? And so I think sometimes people, they'll be talking about things that are happening more at the education level, and they say, oh, big academy. And it's technically, again, different groups. And then the last one, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Foundation. I call this the foundation. This is the Academy's not-for-profit organization, and this is donation only. It's a legit not-for-profit. So the only people who are giving money are choosing to donate to this group, okay? So the Academy, CDR, Ascend, Foundation. Different groups, but of course there's overlap. So I feel like I'm just going to reiterate one more time because I know this is a lot of moving parts to be listening to on a podcast. All of you are paying CDR, okay? Some of you pay the Academy if you choose to be a member. As a student, you really kind of supported Ascend, and some of you do choose to donate to the foundation. So that's the short of it. Now let's talk about the long of it. I'm going to start off talking about the Academy. Remember, this is the membership, but I'm going to cover in more detail later because honestly, I feel like this one has the most moving parts, and I'm not going to cover every single moving part. I mean, there's a lot going on in all of these groups. So the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, this is the website that we go to, eatright.org or eatrightpro.org. Eatright.org is really the professional, that's not the right word. It is the public facing website for the Academy, right? That's more public facing for education for consumers, where eatrightpro.org is for professionals. This is where you and I would go to learn more about how can the Academy help me, or how can I, log into behind the scenes of the membership and get access to information. So the Academy is the world's largest organization of nutrition and dietetics practitioners. And whether you are a paying member of the Academy or not, they represent the field, okay? I know a lot of you have different feelings on the Academy, but we need to understand whether you pay them money or not, they are representing all dietitians, and so they are representing you if you're a member or not, but you're not getting the benefits of membership if you're not paying them. Now, the Academy is made up of a lot of paid staff. They have a CEO. The CEO is not a dietitian. The last one wasn't a dietitian. I don't know if there ever has been a CEO dietitian, but I just want to say, I think that's okay. Us as dietitians, yes, we are amazing, but school taught us to be dietitians. A CEO is someone who actually has education and training to run big organizations. And quite frankly, we really want a good CEO, someone who knows what they're doing to run this ginormous multi-million-dollar organization, right? So lots of paid staff, many dietitians, a CEO who is not currently a dietitian, but that's not a bad thing, okay? I know people have feelings about that, but this is okay. We're talking business. And then there are tons and tons of elected or appointed volunteers. The Academy runs on volunteers, and they're elected into all kinds of different positions. I'll be talking more about that later. And if you want to be a member of the Academy, as of right now, on their website, annual dues, there's $234 for your membership, and membership runs from June 1st to May 31st. If you join later, then, you got a recert on June 1st. And they do also have special rates for students or retired members. And I think, I'm not for sure, but I think if you're a new dietitian, I think they kind of have steps on how much you pay. I don't know if they still have that, but that's how much it costs. I am an Academy member. I have been since I've been a student, and I will always be an Academy member because this organization represents me. It represents you. It represents our organization, and I want to be a part of it. I volunteer a lot in the field because I want to be a change maker to help make the profession what I want it to be. Is it perfect? No, but I will tell you, as someone who is involved with lots of other healthcare professionals, I've got lots of friends who are PTs, OTs. What we see within the academy, it's no different than any of the other allied healthcare positions. It's a big organization doing the best they can, but there's a lot of amazing, amazing volunteers and paid staff members who truly care about making a difference in our field. So I'm going to come back to the academy, but next I want to talk about the Commission on Dietetic Registration. So CDR, this is the one that kind of started this conversation today because dues are increasing. So this is the credentialing agency. You will always pay them. Now, from their website, their mission, the Commission on Dietetic Registration administers valid, reliable, and rigorous credentialing processes to meet the professional need of the credentialed practitioners and their employers and to protect the public. So they are the ones who manage our credentials, okay? And they also protect the public. It's a big deal. So some of the things that you might see that CDR does, or ways that you might interact with them, when you took your exam for the RD or the DTR, you did that through CDR. To maintain your credential, you could either pay annually or like once every 5 years. You're doing that through CDR. If you have a specialty credential like I do, you got that through CDR. When you go manage your PDP, this is your professional development plan. This is where you log your CEUs. You're doing that through CDR, not the academy, through CDR. So we have to log our 75 hours every 5 years for dietitians, plus our 1 hour of ethics. We are doing that through CDR. Now, CDR also works really hard to protect the credential, and I just want to say that it's a lot harder than it sounds. I hear people online say, like, what's the Academy or CDR do for us? They don't do anything. And I can tell you, as someone who's volunteered a lot in these groups, they work so hard, and it is complicated. I actually was on the national board for CDR for 3 years, and I was just so blown away at the hard work of the paid staff and the volunteers and how complicated things were. I mean, they have lawyers on staff, and when you learn about how complex it is, like even thinking of licensure, I feel like all of us can agree that it's super annoying that we're registered nationally, but licensure is at the state level and every state is a little bit different. Like, wouldn't it be so cool if we could just get our license and we're licensed in all the states? Now, they are working on some cool stuff. There's a licensure compact. They're trying to do it. But I want to tell you, if it was as easy as just doing that, snapping our fingers, they 100% would. But it is so complicated. And, I remember hearing lawyers talking about how we have to be so careful in the moves that we make because we could open the door for other people practicing medical nutrition therapy who are not dietitians. And there are so many other credentials out there who are trying to get into our space, right? So I think it's just, I hope this makes sense in what I'm trying to say. Like, it could be easy to say, like, oh, they should do more. But I want you to hear from me from the inside, and knowing so many people, they're trying hard, but it is complicated. It is not easy peasy, but they're doing the best they can. And I will say things are continuing to get better. So they're working hard to protect our credential because there are people coming after it. There are people who want to get rid of dietitians and take over what it is we do. So yay, CDR. They're doing that, so we have to. Now, CDR also handles reports of misuse of the credential. They handle issues with the exam, like maybe someone takes the exam and they're like refuting something on it. They handle that. They have like on their website all the stats on the exam. So if you want to see the pass fail rates of dietitians or any of the specialty credentials, you could see that on their website. They do lots of other stuff too, but I think that's high level of what they do. They administer the exams. They're there for maintaining the credential and logging your CEUs. They protect the credential, and they do all the behind the scenes stuff of protecting our credentials. So I mentioned specialty credentials, but I want to talk about all the credentials that CDR covers. So of course the RD and the DTR. Now I feel like I go back and forth. We have the RDN, so registered dietitian or registered dietitian nutritionist. Then we have the diet tech registered or the nutrition and dietetic tech registered. Now, CDR and the Academy maintain the copyright for both of those. So we choose as a dietitian, do I want to be called an RD or an RDN? You get to pick, okay? They're both legit. So I use them kind of interchangeably. And I feel like you guys know this, but I just want to throw that out there. So CDR manages the dietitian and the dietetic tech credential. They also manage the board certified specialist credentials. So those credentials, and actually there's a new one I just learned about today when I was pulling up this stuff to share with you guys. So you can become a board certified specialist in renal nutrition, pediatric nutrition, sports dietetics, gerontological nutrition, oncology nutrition, obesity and weight management, pediatric critical care nutrition, digestive health, and also you can become an advanced practice, you get your advanced practice in clinical nutrition credential. So the main RD or DTR or your specialty credentials are your two options. Now, the numbers on these as of the 2023 annual report from the Academy, which again I mentioned early on, pull it up, it's really fascinating. But currently, I know it's 2025, but as of the 2023 report, there are 111,660 dietitians, 3,835 diet techs in DTRs, and 4,475 specialists. So of all those specialists I shared, that's how many there are, okay? And those specialists also have like the RD, right? So CDR is made up of paid staff, volunteers, both elected and appointed, and CDR like has a big national board. Elections are actually going on right now of the recording of this episode, and you'll see if you're an Academy member or even a CDR member, if you're a dietitian, you're a member of CDR, right? We're all in CDR. You might be seeing that February 1st to the 15th is when national elections are open. Only Academy members can vote in the Academy, but any dietitian can vote in the CDR elections. Because remember, they represent all of us. So CDR has a national board. It's made up of 12 members. Most of them, well, they're almost all dietitians, but there is one public member, and they represent different areas of the field. So that was the board that I was on for 3 years. I got elected in 2020, so right when the pandemic hit. It wasn't the best year to get elected because everything was virtual and online and just a big old mess. And trying to manage all those, taking exams during a pandemic, it was a lot. So volunteers, you have the board, the national board of volunteer members who are for CDR, but then you also have volunteers who help to write the exam, writing test questions for the RD exams, but then also writing test questions for all those specialty credentials. This is actually how I first got involved in volunteering with CDR, was through helping to write the exam for the CSG. So I am a board certified specialist in gerontological nutrition, and I volunteered for years, first as a guest member, then as like a legit like board member for helping to write the CSG exam. And honestly, the amount of work that goes into creating these exams and making sure all the statistical science behind them, like it's a good, legit exam, the questions are good, they're valid, like all the things, it is fascinating. It's a lot of work, but again, it's all volunteers who are making this stuff happen. I will say with the CSG exam, when I was a part of that, I would travel to Chicago twice a year. I think things have changed. Of course, during the pandemic, we didn't travel, and I don't think they travel that much anymore. But it was so cool because I got to be in the room with other people who are passionate about the field. I got to learn so much about my own field, geriatric nutrition, because it wasn't just me studying to take a test, right? Like as the person taking the CSG exam. I was on the other side writing test questions. So you're thinking differently and critically. And I felt like my experience as a specialist, I became so much more of a specialist in geriatrics. I felt like I was learning so much. And being in the room with other experts, people who write the books, I'm like, dang, I am learning so much. And it's so fun to be in the room with people who are as passionate about this stuff as you are. And I've made friends for life through CDR volunteering. So I'm big fan of it. So especially with the specialty credentials, that has been a lot of fun. And then also there's lots of volunteer boards that help with protecting the credential. So let's talk dues. Dues for the CDR are typically due on August 31st. And for the dietitian, as of right now, it's $70 per year. For DTRs, it's $60 per year, and that rate of $70 is going up to $80, and then it's going to go up to $90. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but all y'all got an email. So for the specialty credentials, I don't have the details on all of them, but I know that they are, most of the specialty credentials are $350 to take the exam. So you have to meet specific criteria, and then you pay your $350. You take the exam, and if you pass, you get to have that credential for 5 years. So I am a CSG dietitian. I, took the exam, good for 5 years. If you want to keep the credential, you got to pay the dues again, and then you have to take the exam again. So the specialty credentials are a little bit different than the RD, where, you never have to take that darn test again. But I just want to say this. If anyone's who's like, that sounds horrible, taking a test every 5 years, I couldn't pass the RD exam right now. If I just sat down and I took the RD exam, I would fail it because it is so broad and so comprehensive, right? I passed it when I was a student because I was learning, I was a jack of all trades, but then I became a specialist in geriatrics. So the CSG exam for me, the geriatric exam, was a little bit, I don't want to say it was easier. I guess it was because that's what I was doing day in and day out. I was a geriatric dietitian, and it was more narrow, still broad, but narrow. Does that make sense? So anyways, that is information all about CDR. So next, let's talk about Ascend. So remember, Ascend is the Accreditation Council for Education in Nutrition and Dietetics. So this is from their website, but Ascend is the accrediting agency for education programs preparing students for careers as registered dietitian nutritionists or nutrition and dietetics technicians registered. So what Ascend does, they set the standard for our field, for students, right? And we know there's a lot of changes going on in the field right now. It's no longer a bachelor's level credential, it's master's level. So there's a lot of changes going on with schools and accreditation for these schools. So Ascend also manages reviewing the schools and auditing them. I'll just be honest, this is the group I know the least about because I've never volunteered in this group, but I know they do amazing work. But every so often you have to almost like recertify as a school to be accredited by Ascend. And so they handle the reviews, the audits, the appeals, all those things. So Ascend is this wonderful group of staff and volunteers who are helping to make sure that students who are going to school to become a dietetics professional are getting good quality education that meets the standards. Okay, so next let's talk about the Academy's foundation. So I'm reading this from a website too. So the foundation, although affiliated with the Academy, the foundation is an independent 501c3 public charity and does not receive any portion of members' dues. The success of the foundation programs and services are attributed to the generous support of its donors. So the foundation, it's a part of the Academy, but it's also a completely separate thing. It is the not-profit part of the Academy. So how they make money is that people donate money, and when they donate that money to the not-for-profit, you get that beautiful tax write-off, right? So again, gifts to the foundation, it makes an impact to thousands of Academy members every year through scholarships, awards, research grants, fellowships, and disaster relief efforts. If you've never been on the foundation's website, go check it out. It's really cool. If you're a student, apply for scholarships. When I was a student, I got scholarships through the foundation. If you're a dietitian, you can get awards, which are great for your resume, but also some of the awards come with money. You could also nominate someone else for an award who's amazing. There's research grants. So if you're like, oh, I want to do research in this area and I want to contribute to the field, the foundation will give you money to do that. You have to apply and get accepted and do all these things, but it's a money source, right? And again, fellowships and disaster relief efforts. So the Academy is really cool because it helps our field. It helps students who maybe couldn't afford the profession get into the profession and go to school. It helps dietitians get recognized for their efforts, but then also get money to continue to advance the field. So it's a really cool group. They do all kinds of stuff for fundraising, but Ascend is made up of a board of directors and they do have paid staff. So again, volunteers and paid staff with that group. And I know more about this group than Ascend, but not a ton, right? Enough to, maybe have someone listening saying you don't know what you're talking about. But I know it's a not-for-profit, scholarships, awards, research grants, fellowships, and they're amazing. Okay, so those are the big four groups: Academy, CDR, Ascend, and the Foundation. But I want to come back to the Academy because the Academy has so many moving parts. So, Big Academy. When you're a member of the Big Academy, you pay that, what, $234 annual fee, whatever it is. Big Academy does lots of stuff. They manage those websites I mentioned, the public facing one and then the one for our profession. They're the ones who do the comp and benefit survey. I've talked about that on the podcast before, and the salary calculator, which is so cool. They have a job board and a find a nutrition expert board where you could actually, like side hustlers, you could have your information up there and have people find you. I actually get people still, I had to shut down mine because I get people who find me and they think that I work with clients. I had my account set up with more like I provide education and information, but people don't always understand that, right? They're like, oh, a dietitian means they can work with me one-on-one. So I actually did take down my profile, but I got a lot of people reaching out to me who are looking for a dietitian. Now, the Big Academy also puts on FNCE, and there's lots of groups within the Academy. Remember, tons of groups. So they help put on FNCE, the Food and Nutrition Conference and Expo. This is that nutrition conference, our biggest one that happens every year. That happens because the Academy. Tons of work and money goes into making that a reality. Now, there's also the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So that's another benefit that we get is access to the journal. They also do different trainings like for the nutrition focused physical exam and online certifications. They have newsletters you can sign up for and get in your inbox, like current research and trends in the field. You get access to the nutrition care manual and then also the nutrition care process terminology. So the NCPT stuff. It's been so long since I practiced. I'm like an entrepreneur now. I'm like, oh, I remember writing my PES statements and going to the Academy's website, but still, great resource. Also, they do National Nutrition Month, which is coming up next month in March. The Big Academy publishes all kinds of books. They actually have a store on their website and they publish tons of really great books. They also provide opportunities for networking, education, advocacy, and more. So, underneath Academy, I'm gonna throw out some more stuff for you guys, okay? We're gonna talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things under the Academy that really haven't been covered yet. Okay? We're gonna talk about affiliates, DPGs, MIGs, ANPAC, and the House of Delegates. Hang in there with me. So again, we have Big Academy. If you are a member, you are a member of the Big Academy, American National Academy. When you sign up for this optional membership, you do have to select your state. When you select your state, you are now a member of the affiliate. An affiliate just means the state level group. So kind of like big government and state government within like regular politics, academies like that too, right? Big academy and then statewide academies. So I live in Oregon. And so in addition to being a member of the academy, I'm a member of the Oregon Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is affiliated but a separate unit. So it's a whole separate business, separate taxes, all the things, separate board, president, secretary, treasurer, volunteers. They do different events, and some affiliates actually have local groups too. So here in Oregon, we have the Portland Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, but some bigger states like California, there's tons of different local groups that you can be a part of. So Big Academy, and then the affiliates, which are the state level. Okay. And again, they're called affiliates because they are affiliated with the academy. There's lots of rules they have to follow, but they are also like an independent body. So that's why like every state's so different. And here's the cool thing. You actually don't have to be a member of the affiliate that you live in. You can pick any state. So maybe you live like close to the border to a state and you're like, man, that affiliate group is rocking. They do awesome events. They have all these webinars. They have all these cool things that they do for their members. I want to be a member of that group. You can be an affiliate anywhere, even if you don't live there. So affiliates, state and local. And there's no additional costs for the state. You know, once you're a member of the academy, like you're a member of the state too, you just have to pick your next one. The next two things I want to talk about are additional costs, but they're like dirt cheap. Affiliates and MIGs. Or no, I'm sorry. See, even I'm sharing so much stuff, my brain's getting confused. DPGs and MIGs. When you sign up for the academy, you do have to pay additional money. It's like anywhere from like, I think it's like, it used to be 25, maybe they're higher, like 25, 30, 35, 45. to be a member of these specialty groups. Okay. So the DPGs, these are the dietetic practice groups, and I have a website pulled up so I don't butcher this. I was trying to count how many. It doesn't say specifically. I think I counted 28, but there's more than 25. So these are groups that are part of the big academy. And they're really focused on an area of practice of dietetics because our field is crazy broad, right? So if you're in this broad, space and you want to be around other people who are practicing the way you are and, get CEUs, webinars, education, resources, networking opportunities with peers in the same space, this is where the DPGs happen. And I will say, I find the most benefit of the Academy as a member through the DPGs, because this is like the smaller groups of like more interactive, right? And every DPG is different. You can join one. If you like it, stay. If you don't, hop to the next. Some people are DPG hoppers. They like to hop from group to group. Others of us are like lifers. I'm a geriatric dietitian. I have been a member of the Healthy Aging Dietetic Practice Group as a ride or die since I became a student, or after I got my job in home care and I knew I was going to be a geriatric dietitian. So that's a group I have never veered from. And honestly, I love it so much that I'll probably never leave. That was one of the groups that I got my first big academy experience in. I ran for nominating chair, I think back in like 2011, got elected, blown away. I was like, what? But these groups need volunteers. They are all run on volunteers with maybe one paid staff member. So the DPGs need lots of volunteers, and it's a great way to get involved. Again, with passionate people. I have so many friends I've made through these groups. So in healthy aging, I've worn so many hats. I was, again, the nominating chair. I was the social media chair, the professional development chair. I was the actual chair, which is kind of like a president, but in the DPGs, they call it a chair. So I was the chair-elect, the chair, and the past chair. So I have been deeply involved in healthy aging, and I love that group so much. They are amazing. If you work with older adults, join. So I'm a member of the Healthy Aging Dietetic Practice Group, also Dietetics in Healthcare Communities, DHCC. That's another group I'm a part of because it does relate to geriatrics as well. I'm also a member of the Nutrition Entrepreneurs DPG. Side hustlers, join the Nutrition Entrepreneurs DPG. Especially if you go to Fancy, they do events at Fancy right. Like they are. I love the healthy aging group because it's like my people, geriatric dietitians, but nutrition entrepreneurs, man, they do it good. Like they do a great job. You get so much value out of that group. So I think those are the main groups. I think I'm also a member of dietitians in business and communications. Sometimes I'm a part of it, sometimes I'm not. It's just, you only have so much time in the day to be active and involved, right? And I'm like, if I'm not active and involved, I really don't want to pay for it, except healthy aging, because they will always get my money because I love them. So I'm just going to list real quickly those 28-ish DPGs, and you could see like how broad they are, right? But I do want to say, you have to be a member of the big academy, and then the DPGs are an add-on. You can't just be a member of a DPG. It's like the whole shebang, okay? So behavioral health nutrition, cardiovascular health and well-being, clinical nutrition management, CNM, diabetes, dietetics and healthcare communities, which is DHCC, dietitians in business and communications, this is DBC, this is a great one for side hustlers, dietitians in integrative and functional medicine, dietitians in medical nutrition therapy, dietitians in nutrition support, food and culinary professionals, FCP. They put on a fabulous event at Fancy every year. I've gone many times. I volunteer a lot. Did I mention that? I volunteer a lot with that. And as a volunteer, I get to eat the food. So I'm like, I will work for free. I will sell tickets, raffle tickets, because they do a lot of fundraising for the foundation, the nonprofit group. And anyways, they have fabulous events, beautiful locations and delicious food. And, dietitians, we love our food. Healthy aging, DPG, hunger and environmental nutrition, management in food and nutrition systems, nutrition education for the public, nutrition educators for of health professionals, nutrition entrepreneurs, again, a really good one for side hustlers, nutrition informatics, oncology nutrition, pediatric nutrition, public health community nutrition. Way back when I was a part of that group, I got my master's in community nutrition. I'm very passionate about public health, which is, I think, why I love online business so much, because I'm like, I feel like what I do through blogging is public health. But that's a side note. I'm not a member of them anymore, but they were a good group way back when. Renal dietitians, research, school nutrition services, sports and human performance nutrition. I was a member of them for a while, just for funsies. Vegetarian nutrition, weight management, and women's health. So you can see there's like lots of different groups. So within each of those DPGs, they have their own structure for volunteers. Again, you got the chair, the past chair, the chair-elect, the treasurer, the secretary, the professional development director, the sponsorship chair, the membership chair, the communications chair. There are so many volunteers that make up our field, okay? So many. And these are wonderful groups. So next, let's talk about the MIGs. So MIGs are called member interest groups. So DPGs are kind of like how you practice. MIGs are more like who you are. Like I identify as this, and I want to be around other dietetics practitioners who are like me. MIGs went through a lot of changes a few years ago. There used to be more MIGs, but they combined a lot of them. I don't entirely love it personally, but I'll just give you an example. They have cultures of gender and age, KOGA. It used to be they had like I think it was like 30 dietitians, 30 and under, and then they had a group for older dietitians, and now it's like every age dietitian. So, it is what it is. But change happens. So some of the member interest groups that you can pay for, and these are like, I think they're like $15. They're not super expensive, but again, a wonderful way to connect with peers. So there is the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders group, cultures of gender and age, disabilities in nutrition and dietetics, global MIG, Indians in nutrition and dietetics, Latinos and Hispanics in dietetics and nutrition, the National Organization of Blacks in Dietetics and Nutrition, and religion MIG. So those are some specialty member interest groups, which again are all volunteer led and great for like networking and education, all kinds of stuff. So let me minimize my screen. You guys can't see my screen, especially if you're listening to the podcast, but I just want to make sure I didn't butcher those things. So ANDPAC is the next thing I want to talk about. And so this is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Political Action Committee. You may or may not be familiar with what a political action committee is, but ANDPAC does lots of things. They manage like action alerts. They're involved in policy. A political action committee is called a PAC. This is a group that collects and contributes from its members and then uses pooled funds to support political candidates. All groups do this. This is a lot of how politics works. The more I dig into it, it's fascinating. But ANPAC is nonpartisan, meaning they don't pick one side or the other. They're the only political action committee broadly focused on nutrition, food, and health, supporting pro-nutrition candidates for federal office. And so the work that ANPAC does is really important because we can complain all we want about the field, but a lot of the changes we need to see are going to be at political levels. And so ANPAC does some really cool things for finding candidates who support dietitians, what we do, and can get really awesome legislature passed. Legislature. It's late when I'm recording this, guys. It is dark outside and my words are slurring. So ANPAC is a really wonderful group. And then finally, I want to talk about the House of Delegates. So the House of Delegates, the HOD, they have their own there's the person who's over the House of Delegates, and it's the way I like to describe the House of Delegates is like Congress, right? So you have all these representatives from all these different states. So the House of Delegates is I'm going to read this and then I'll explain it actually. The House of Delegates shall exist to govern the profession by providing a forum for membership and professional issues to establish and maintain professional standards of membership. Core roles of the HOD will include, but are not limited to, adopting and maintaining the Code of Ethics in conjunction with CDR, developing position statements and other professional papers, establishing qualification and dues of members, the formula for dues payments to affiliate organizations. They also identify and prioritize trends and recommend policy and strategic direction for the Academy. And the HOD has authority to establish committees and rules and policies of HOD organization and governance, including composition and size. I clearly copied and pasted that from a website, but I didn't want to butcher it because I don't have a ton of experience with the House of Delegates within the Oregon Academy. I mentioned I live in Oregon. I mentioned I volunteer a lot. So my first role in Oregon was the treasurer. And then I think from there, I go from there. I might have just jumped into president. And so when you're the president or the chair, the affiliates have presidents, the DPGs have chairs. So in Oregon, I was the president-elect, president, and then past president. So they're 3-year terms. One gets you ready, one you're the in that role, and then the next one you're kind of helping with transitioning, which is kind of cool because you're functioning in a group with 3 people, like the incoming, the current, and the past. So it's actually kind of a cool experience to have support. So that way you're not like alone in it. So anyways, when I was the president of Oregon Academy, I was probably most closely, words are hard. I had my closest experience with the House of Delegates because I filled in for the Oregon House of Delegates representative, and I did go to FNCE, the Food Nutrition Conference and Expo, and they had their House of Delegates in-person meeting, and I participated in the day-long House of Delegates meeting. All that to say is I have some experience, but again, enough to be dangerous here. So House of Delegates has representatives from everywhere. All of the affiliates, all of the states have representatives in the House of Delegates. All the DPGs have representatives in the House of Delegates. And then there's other kind of like appointed people. So really, it's like this big, diverse group of dietetics professionals that make up our profession, and they are helping to guide our profession. So I hope that makes sense. So within Big Academy, again, lots of moving parts, including the affiliates, which is the state level, the DPGs, which are the dietetic practice groups, the member interest groups, the MIGs, ANPAC, which is the political action committee, and the House of Delegates. So there we go. It's been 40 minutes of me explaining this to you guys. If you've been confused before, I hope this helps you to understand why you've been confused. There are so many moving parts. So I'm just going to kind of reiterate what I said, the short of it. So the structure of our organization, the Organization of Dietetics, has really 4 main groups. The Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, called the Academy. This is the optional membership for dietetic professionals, right? They represent all dietitians, but it's optional membership. The Commission on Dietetic Registration, or CDR, this is the credentialing body, so we pay our annual dues to maintain our credentials. Then we have Ascend, and this is the group that's the accreditor for the nutrition programs for schools, right? We all experienced an Ascend program at one point. You just might not have known it. And then the Academy's foundation, this is the Academy's not-for-profit organization. They run on donations, and they handle the scholarships, awards, grants, all that cool stuff. So you guys, a lot of work is going on to make our profession happen. A lot of volunteers make it happen. I have been volunteering for a long time. There have been times where I remember I was like, oh golly, this year was crazy. I was the, I think I was the past chair, or no, the past president of Oregon, while being the chair-elect of Healthy Aging, while helping to write the CSG exam, while being on other boards. Like I, throughout my career, have historically been on at least 2 volunteer roles at a time. Right now, I'm only on 1 board. I am so proud of myself. I am on the Oregon Academy board as the business development director. I've been in that role for a few years, and I still volunteer here and there where I can. But again, I volunteered a lot, and I'm so passionate about our field. So I just want to be really honest that I see people complain on social media a lot about our field, complaining about the Academy, complaining about CDR, complaining about all these groups. And I hear people say they do nothing. And I just want to say, someone from the inside, that is not true. I understand your frustrations with our field. I promise you the frustrations we have are not specific to dietetics. It is all allied healthcare, and I'll even probably argue all professions, right? When you have these big structures, things can get complicated, right? But these groups are made up of amazing people. I know so many of these paid employees who work for the Academy and CDR who I adore, and they are amazing, and they're dedicating their career to working to better our field. The amount of volunteers who are working for free, okay? They're working a full-time job, maybe they're side hustlers, and they are working for free to volunteer to make our profession better. They are moving, they are shaking, and when I see people complain online, like I said, I understand. People are always going to be complaining, right? I get that. But when I see people complain that the Academy does nothing, I do feel a little bit frustrated because there is so much hard work going on behind the scenes. And I will say, and I will counter, Complaining on social media with other people about all the problems in our field will do nothing other than get you riled up and really upset about how sucky it is to be a dietitian. Versus volunteering, getting involved, being the change maker. Change is slow. It's hard work, but I hope you hear what I'm saying with love. If you're like, I complain all the time about the academy, but maybe you heard this podcast episode and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea what all went into it. And, are there things that happen that are kind of annoying? Sure. It's a big organization with lots of moving parts, and sometimes people with good intentions make bad choices. Okay? It happens. We saw a lot of this with sponsorship. If you guys are familiar with Cheesegate, should that have happened? Probably not. It did. Let's move on. Let's focus on making our profession better. So I'll get off my little thing. I mean, all of you are welcome to complain about whatever you want, but I just hope that this episode helps you to really understand the governing body of the profession of dietetics. There are lots of moving parts. Again, CDR, the Academy, Ascend, the Foundation, and so many amazing volunteers. And if you're listening to this and you're a volunteer, either you are currently a volunteer and you've been a volunteer, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for volunteering your time, unpaid, to make a difference in our field. And sometimes you might be in a role and you feel like, man, I made a huge difference. Other times you might feel like I didn't do anything. Thank you. Thank you. Because you didn't have to do the work that you did. And even if it doesn't feel like you made a difference, I promise you did. It's just, all of these groups, they change a lot, right? Different staff, different volunteers, different seasons, different policies. I've been in groups that I felt like I made massive changes in. I've been in groups where I'm like, I feel like I didn't do anything. And that's hard for me because I want to make a difference. But we need people in these roles. I love being a dietitian. You guys know that about me, right? I love being a dietitian and I love our field and I love our profession. So I'm over here and I'm always going to be a member of the Academy. I'm going to support our field in every way that I can within the Academy and outside the Academy because I do a lot outside as an entrepreneur. And I hope this episode was helpful, a little bit longer than usual, but I hope that I made this more clear for you and not more confusing because I know you're probably like, Katie, I'd never even heard of the House of Delegates until now. Well, now you know. So, anyways, that's what I've got to share for today. And thank you so much for listening to the podcast. As always, you can go to katiedodd.com. That is my Linktree page to learn about all of the ways that we could work together. And hopefully, I'll see you next week on the podcast. Bye, guys.